The United States faces a series of interconnected structural challenges, including widening income inequality, an outdated education system, and deteriorating infrastructure. Political gridlock and stagnant productivity growth hinder reforms, while shifting global power dynamics and the costs of military presence abroad strain resources. Deep inequalities in education funding, the outsized influence of money in politics, and the migration of skilled workers back to developing nations further compound these issues, creating a complex environment that requires urgent and coordinated solutions. 1. Widening income inequality and wealth disparity. As the gap between the ultra-wealthy and the rest of the population continues to widen, the consequences are profound. The disparity reduces economic mobility, preventing many from climbing the economic ladder, while simultaneously creating social tension and resentment. This issue is highly politicized, and reaching a consensus on how to reduce the gap proves difficult, as proposed policies often face opposition from powerful interests that benefit from the current system. The lack of agreement on solutions hampers meaningful progress in addressing this growing divide. 2. Skill gap and education barriers. Modern employers struggle to find workers with the necessary skills for today's jobs, particularly in technology and specialized fields. Meanwhile, many Americans are unable to access the training needed to fill these positions. The rising cost of higher education creates further barriers to opportunity, locking many out of the workforce. Bridging the skill gap will require the cooperation of businesses, government, and educational institutions, while also overcoming the stigma surrounding non-traditional education paths, such as vocational training and apprenticeships. 3. Crumbling infrastructure hurts economic growth. The infrastructure that once powered the US economy, roads, bridges, airports, and power grids, has become outdated and is in dire need of repair. As these systems degrade, they become less efficient, hampering economic growth and productivity. However, investing in large-scale infrastructure projects is costly, and disagreements over funding methods, such as increased taxes or borrowing, slow progress. With each delay, the country falls further behind in maintaining a competitive economic edge globally. 4. Stagnant productivity growth threatens future prosperity. In recent decades, the US has experienced slower productivity growth, which is critical to long-term economic success. Without improvements in technology, innovation, and worker efficiency, the economy risks stagnation. Economists and policymakers alike grapple with how to reverse this trend and boost productivity, yet the solutions remain elusive. A focus on innovation, education, and adapting to modern economic realities will be essential to reigniting growth. 5. Political polarization blocks structural reforms. Political polarization has deepened over the years, making it incredibly difficult to implement necessary long-term reforms. Blue states and red states often hold opposing views on major policies, creating legislative gridlock. This environment of disagreement prevents the country from addressing critical issues like healthcare, taxation, and climate change. As partisan conflict escalates, the nation becomes less capable of passing reforms that would benefit society as a whole. 6. Geopolitical shifts threaten America's strategic position. Once seen as strategically blessed by its geography, the US is now witnessing a shift in global power. The rise of China and India in the Yuxi Circle, home to more than half the world's population, is tilting economic and political influence toward Asia. Meanwhile, the US, as the only wealthy nation in its region, faces constant immigration challenges at its borders, a reflection of regional instability. The US must adapt to these shifting dynamics or risk losing its strategic advantages on the global stage. 7. Overextension abroad drains domestic resources. With over 750 military bases across the globe, the US spends a significant portion of taxpayer money on maintaining its international presence. While this global network supports US geopolitical interests, it comes at the expense of domestic investment. Funds that could be used to improve the quality of life for American citizens are instead allocated to maintaining these military installations. As citizens feel the burden of taxes without seeing direct improvements in their daily lives, It leads to frustration and a lack of motivation to contribute further. 8. A socially stratified education system. The US education system is deeply unequal, with funding often based on local property taxes, creating vast disparities between wealthy and poor districts. Affluent areas benefit from better resources, teachers and facilities, while lower-income communities struggle with outdated materials and overcrowded classrooms. This inequality is further exacerbated by residential segregation, which has concentrated poverty and limited access to quality education for minority groups. Without addressing these disparities, the education system will continue to perpetuate cycles of disadvantage. 9. Money in politics undermines democracy. The influence of money in American politics creates significant barriers to achieving true democratic representation. The wealthiest citizens, particularly those in the top 1%, hold disproportionate influence over policy decisions, leading to policies that favor the rich at the expense of the broader population. This erosion of trust in democratic institutions can foster disillusionment, leading to political disengagement and the rise of anti-establishment movements. The feedback loop of wealth translating into political power further entrenches economic inequality, perpetuating a system that serves the few over the many. 10. Reverse migration. As developing nations in the global south experience rapid economic growth and begin meeting the basic needs of their citizens, many skilled and educated workers from these regions are choosing to return home. This reverse migration of talent poses a challenge for the US, as it may lose some of its brightest minds to countries offering better opportunities and a higher quality of life. With the US struggling to address its own socio-economic challenges, the allure of returning to rapidly advancing home countries becomes increasingly attractive for many immigrants.